They say the strongest move is action. But what if the greatest weapon is doing nothing? Today, we unravel a secret hidden in plain sight. How refusing to play the game leaves those who try to control you powerless. This is not about weakness. This is about mastery. And the problem we are solving is simple. How to break free from the chains of manipulation without lifting a single finger. Look around you. Every throne, every crown, every badge of authority you have ever seen. None of it is real. It is not gold, not steel, not blood that sustains power. No, it is perception. The masses believe, and so the ruler governs. The soldier obeys not because he is chained, but because he perceives the command as binding. The citizen follows laws not because of walls, but because of fear. Fear of what might happen if he does not comply. Strip away the belief, and the throne is nothing but wood. The crown is nothing but metal. The laws are nothing but ink on paper. Without perception, power is dust. Now, here is the deception. The powerful do not truly act more than you do. They move less than you think. The tyrant lifts no hammer or earth. The king tills no field. The manipulator whispers but rarely lifts a hand. Yet they seem mighty, do they not? Why? Because you perceive their words, their gestures, their presence as weighty. You interpret every glance as strategy, every silence as judgment, every decree as destiny. In truth, they only supply half the illusion. The other half comes from you. This is why when you do nothing, their world collapses. For power is not in their action, but in your perception of their action. If you withdraw that perception, if you stop feeding their performance with your energy, they lose more than influence. They lose existence itself in the realm of control. The manipulator without your reaction is a puppet master tugging at strings that no longer move. Their dance ends because the stage is empty. Consider how perception crafts authority. A leader speaks with confidence and the room nods along. Not because the words are divine, but because people believe the tone signals certainty. A boss slams the table and subordinates tremble. Not because the sound is deadly, but because the perception of anger carries the illusion of consequence. A partner grows silent during an argument, and suddenly the other rushes to fill the void. Did they move mountains? No, they merely position themselves inside your perception and let you build the tower of their strength with your own mind. This is why the art of doing nothing is more terrifying than any attack. When you do nothing, you refuse to play your part in their theater. You refuse to gasp when they raise their voice. You refuse to chase when they withdraw. You refuse to fuel the fire with your attention. In your inaction, you reveal the truth. The emperor has no clothes. The throne is hollow. The manipulator is desperate. And the most unsettling revelation of all, they have no power unless you believe they do. Think of history's greatest rulers, emperors, and generals. Did they truly hold armies in their bare hands? No, they held them in perception. Alexander was flesh and bone, yet perceived as a god. Caesar was mortal, yet perceived as eternal. It was not the sword that won them the world. It was the idea of the sword magnified in the minds of millions. Had perception shifted, had the soldiers simply laid down their arms and chosen not to see greatness where they were told to see it, those empires would have dissolved overnight. In your life, this principle repeats itself endlessly. The boss who intimidates you survives on your perception that their anger means you are in danger. The manipulative friend thrives because you perceive their approval as necessary. The lover who controls you does so only because you perceive their absence as unbearable. But what if you shifted perception? What if you recognized their gestures as theater, their silence as emptiness, their threats as echoes? What if instead of reacting you simply did nothing? What would remain of their authority then? You see, power is not an iron chain locked around your neck. It is a shadow on the wall, enlarged by the firelight of your belief. Step away from the fire, and the shadow shrinks. Do nothing, and the illusion dissolves. The ones who claim to rule you, command you, manipulate you, they fear only one thing: that you might discover their empire is built not on strength, but on your perception of their strength. That you might stop feeding their image with your attention. That you might sit still, silent, unmoved, and in that quiet rebellion make them invisible. Power does not roar into existence by itself. It does not march on its own feet, nor breathe on its own lungs. No, power survives on the oxygen you give it. It feeds on your reaction. Every time you answer the provocation, every time you defend yourself against an insult, every time you rush to justify your choices, you are not resisting control. You are sustaining it, like a fire starved without air. Control cannot live without the currents of your response. Consider the manipulator. They do not need truth to dominate you. They only need your reaction to their lies. They insult you not to wound, but to pull you into a performance where they stand as conductor and you as instrument. They accuse you falsely, not because they believe their own words, but because they know your instinct to defend yourself will hand them the script. The moment you answer, the moment you explain, you are inside their frame, and within that frame, they reign. This is the trap that most never see. They imagine control as something external, as chains placed upon them. But the real chains are forged in your own movements. The tyrant does not need to whip you if you whip yourself with fear. The schemer does not need to prove his worth if you spend your time disproving his slanders. Your reaction is the lifeblood of their power. Take it away, and they wither. Observe how this works in the smallest quarrels. Someone raises their voice at you. Instinct whispers. Shout back, prove you are not weak. But the moment you do, you are now playing their game. They wanted noise, and you delivered it. They wanted movement, and you supplied it. In their chaos, they are at home. But in silence, they suffocate. In your refusal to move, their words echo against stone walls and lose their control thrives not because it is strong, but because you cannot resist feeding it. The boss who bullies you in meetings knows you will scramble to defend yourself, making them appear as judge. The friend who guilt trips you knows you will rush to explain, proving you care more for their approval than your own peace. The partner who plays cold games knows you will chase, proving you fear abandonment more than you value dignity. In every case, the pattern is the same. Your reaction is the current that drives their ship forward. And so, the cruelest trick of control is that it makes you believe you are fighting it, when in truth you are keeping it alive. You resist, but your resistance is fuel. You argue, but your argument is proof they have touched your nerves. You explain, but your explanation is a sign that their words matter. You rage, but your rage is their triumph. They provoke only because they know you will answer, and in answering you are theirs. Think deeper. Think of rulers, dictators, even states. Why do they stage grand spectacles, parades, decrees, punishments? Not because these acts contain power themselves, but because they are designed to provoke reaction. Fear, obedience, devotion, outrage. They do not care which one you feel so long as you feel something, because every reaction binds you to them. Love binds as surely as fear. Hatred binds as surely as loyalty. The one thing they cannot control, the one thing that unravels them completely, is indifference. Do nothing, and you starve the beast. This is why silence is feared more than resistance. A ruler can crush a rebellion, but he cannot crush a void. A manipulator can twist your words, but he cannot twist the words you never speak. A lover who seeks to dominate can twist your chase into their victory, but cannot twist the absence of your pursuit. Control thrives on noise, on motion, on proof that it still matters. But when you deny it that proof, when you do nothing, it becomes a ghost, present only in its own imagination. Understand this. Reaction is not strength, it is surrender. It feels powerful in the moment, to argue, to shout, to declare yourself free. But all of it is inside the web that was spun for you. The true strength lies in restraint, in letting the manipulator scream into silence, in letting the tyrant display his power before an unmoved audience, in letting the schemer choke on his own lies, because you refuse to breathe life into them. Power cannot thrive without consumption, and what it consumes is you. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is a weapon, and it is sharper than any sword, more destabilizing than any shout, more suffocating than any chain. When words are expected and none arrive, the mind of your opponent begins to crumble under the weight of its own questions. Your silence is a mirror, and in that mirror they see only themselves, distorted, uncertain, vulnerable. This is why silence destabilizes, because silence forces them to fight shadows of their own making. Consider the human mind. It craves certainty, clarity, a predictable response. When someone insults you, they expect your anger. When they accuse you, they expect your defense. When they threaten, they expect your fear. Each of these reactions gives them ground, a foothold in the battle for control. But when you remain silent, you give them nothing. No rope to pull, no flame to feed, no direction to push against, and in that void they lose balance. Silence is not passivity, it is pressure, it stretches time. Every second you do not answer feels like an hour to the one who waits. Their thoughts race. Did you hear them? Did you dismiss them? Are you planning something? Have you seen through them? They cannot rest, because silence denies them the comfort of knowing where you stand. And uncertainty is the most powerful destabilizer in human conflict. For the one who is uncertain begins to invent threats, to imagine outcomes, to panic at phantoms. Think of an argument. One voice shouts, another shouts back, and the energy builds like fire. The aggressor thrives on this, feeding from the sparks. But remove one voice, refuse to answer, and suddenly the aggressor burns alone. Their flames lick empty air, and the silence around them makes their outburst appear desperate, foolish, unbalanced. The crowd watching begins to wonder, why is one calm and the other raging? And in that moment, silence has shifted perception. The one who rages looks weak. The one who is silent appears powerful. Silence is also a mirror for guilt. The liar depends on your protest to polish their deception, to anchor their accusations in your reaction. But when you remain silent, they are forced to confront their own falsehoods with no counterpoint to twist. Their words echo, unanswered, until they begin to doubt themselves. They begin to over-explain, to overreach, to expose their own weakness in an attempt to fill the void you created. Silence pushes them to reveal more than they intended, because silence is unbearable to the guilty. Even in matters of power on the grandest scale, silence has toppled kings. Diplomats know that a pause in negotiation can rattle the most confident opponent. Leaders know that the refusal to answer an enemy's provocation plants seeds of paranoia. Entire regimes have been shaken, not by loud rebellion, but by the quiet withdrawal of obedience, the silent refusal to respond, the refusal to participate in the script. The oppressor fears silence because it cannot be controlled. They can punish words, they can distort words, but silence slips through their fingers like smoke. Notice how manipulators behave when silence confronts them. At first they press harder, desperate for a reaction. They insult deeper, they provoke louder, they push boundaries further. But still, silence stands. And slowly the manipulator begins to falter. Their confidence wavers, their tactics grow sloppy, their voice cracks under the pressure of being unheard. Which began as an attack turns into an unraveling. And the beauty of it, you have done nothing. You have let silence do the work of 1,000 arguments. Silence is not weakness. It is presence. It is the presence of self-control, the presence of strategy, the presence of someone who knows that true strength does not need to announce itself. The predator that hunts in silence is feared more than the one that roars. The ruler who watches in silence is more unsettling than the one who shouts commands. The lover who withdraws into silence has more power than the one who begs or pleads. For silence always leaves the question lingering. What does this mean? And the unanswered question gnaws at the mind more cruelly than any spoken threat. Understand this. Your silence destabilizes not because it is void, but because it is a stage where the other reveals themselves. Their fear, their insecurity, their impatience, all of it rushes out to fill the emptiness you created. You are no longer fighting them. They are fighting themselves. And when the opponent turns inward, when they are lost inside their own doubt, when they cannot endure the storm of their imagination, the battle has already been won in silence. Most people believe that domination is built on constant motion. They believe power belongs to the one who acts first, who pushes hardest, who never ceases to strike. But this is the illusion of the desperate. True domination is not endless movement. True domination is the art of stillness, the decision to hold back, to wait, to let the other reveal their hand while you reveal nothing. This is strategic passivity, and it is the most elegant form of control. Passivity, when it is chosen, is not weakness, it is mastery. It is the refusal to be baited, the refusal to squander energy on petty battles, the refusal to show your intentions when others are bleeding themselves dry to display theirs. The lion does not chase every mouse that crosses its path. The general does not send armies into every skirmish. And the master of power does not leap at every provocation. By remaining still, by appearing passive, you force others to act first. And the one who acts first is always at a disadvantage because their movement exposes their position, their need, their vulnerability. Strategic passivity is a mirror that magnifies the impatience of others. Watch how easily the restless reveal themselves. They cannot bear the silence of your stillness. They cannot tolerate that you do not react. So they fidget, they rush, they stumble into overexposure. They make mistakes because they are addicted to activity, to the illusion of control. Meanwhile, your refusal to move plants the suspicion that you are stronger, that you see more, that you wait for the perfect strike, And nothing is more intimidating than an adversary who appears in no hurry to win. Understand the battlefield of relationships, of politics, of business, of daily life. The one who rushes to prove themselves, to explain, to defend, is already a servant. They have surrendered the rhythm of the interaction. But the one who sits quietly, who withholds, who lets the other sweat under the weight of their own anxiety, has taken command of time itself. And time is the greatest weapon. For every second your opponent waits, every moment they grow impatient. Their mind unravels faster than any sword could cut them. Strategic passivity also forces the opponent into exhaustion. Picture a hunter chasing prey that never runs, only watches. The hunter spends energy, leaps, thrusts, strikes at shadows. The prey, unmoving, remains untouched. Soon the hunter is weary, uncertain, vulnerable. And in that moment of fatigue, the passive one seizes victory without ever appearing to struggle. Domination, then, is not measured in strikes delivered, but in strikes denied, in energy conserved, in battles never fought yet already won. In human affairs, this principle is everywhere. A rival at work spreads rumors about you. Expecting your frantic denial, you remain still, silent, unmoved. Soon their words sound shrill, desperate, and the very audience they sought to manipulate begins to doubt them instead. A manipulative friend tests you with guilt, expecting you to justify yourself, to prove your loyalty. You do nothing. Their performance collapses under its own weight, for guilt requires a response to thrive. A lover withdraws affection to provoke a chase that you do not pursue. The game ends before it begins because their control was always dependent on your reaction. In every case, passivity was not surrender. It was domination. Strategic passivity is terrifying because it cannot be read. People expect attack or defense, aggression or retreat, but when you do neither, when you remain deliberately still, they cannot predict you. You become an enigma. Are you planning? Are you indifferent? Are you stronger than they imagine? They cannot know. And in their attempt to solve the riddle, they reveal themselves entirely. Their fear of your stillness forces them to speak too much, to act too fast, to show too clearly. You dominate without lifting a hand, because they are undone by the shadows of their own mind. Even in matters of empire, this law holds true. The greatest rulers in history did not fight every battle offered to them. They waited, they withheld, they let impatience destroy their enemies. Armies crumbled not because of the sword, but because of hunger, fatigue, paranoia, pressures magnified by the deliberate stillness of their opponents. Power is not the endless expenditure of effort. Power is choosing when to act and, more importantly, when not to. The world mistakes restraint for weakness, but those who understand domination know restraint is the purest form of strength. Strategic passivity is not the absence of choice. It is the highest choice. It is the discipline to see provocation and ignore it. It is the foresight to know that rushing gives your opponent the advantage. It is the patience to let time fight your battles for you. It is the calm certainty that domination does not require frenzy, that silence can shatter louder than thunder, that waiting can wound deeper than striking. To do nothing, when others demand you move, is not surrender. It is a form of absolute control. You have now seen the secret hidden in plain sight. Power was never in their words, nor in their gestures, nor in their false authority. Power lived in your reaction, in your perception, and the energy you gave away without thought. When you do nothing, when you withdraw your response, the illusion collapses. Their voice echoes into silence. Their schemes unravel under their own weight. Their control dissolves because it was never real. It was only ever borrowed from you. Perception gave them strength. Reaction gave them fuel. Noise gave them balance. But silence starved them. And in your stillness, you discovered the truth. Passivity is not weakness. It is the highest form of mastery. For when you refuse to move on command, you become ungovernable. When you deny them your reaction, you deny them existence. And when you choose to do nothing, it is they who lose everything.